He walked into a crowded bar with friends, smiled, joked, and then disappeared. Cameras recorded him entering, but not a single frame captured him leaving. Brian Shaffer vanished, and no one has seen him since. It was a crisp March evening in 2006 when 27-year-old Brian Shaffer arrived in downtown Columbus, Ohio, ready to unwind with his friends after a long week of medical school and hospital rotations. Brian was tall, charismatic, and always quick with a smile, the kind of person who could light up a room without even trying. His friends had chosen a popular bar on High Street, a spot bustling with college students and young professionals, drawn by its lively music, cheap drinks, and central location. Brian was looking forward to the evening, casual drinks, laughter, and a brief escape from the pressures of his life. The bar was crowded when they arrived, the air thick with music, chatter, and the aroma of spilled beer and fries. Security cameras lined the entrance, capturing the comings and goings of patrons like silent sentinels. Brian and his friends entered through the front doors, smiling, joking. The night stretched ahead of them like any ordinary Friday evening. At first, the night was typical. They ordered drinks, laughed at shared stories, and mingled with other patrons. Brian, ever the friendly presence, greeted acquaintances and made casual conversation. Security cameras recorded his every move as he walked through the bar, exchanging nods and smiles, a figure both ordinary and magnetic in his sociability. Nothing about this night suggested that in a matter of hours, the ordinary world would collapse into a mystery that baffled police, friends, and family alike. As the night wore on, the group began to break apart. Some friends left for other destinations, tired or ready for an early night. Brian stayed behind, conversing with bartenders and patrons. He moved fluidly through the crowd, always visible to the cameras at the entrance's end, near the bar itself. And then, at some point, he vanished. When his friends eventually went to leave, Brian was nowhere to be seen. They assumed he had slipped out the side door, taken a cab, or wandered off for a phone call. But the problem was clear. The cameras showed no exit. Brian had entered the bar, but no footage captured him leaving. The front door, the side doors, and even emergency exits showed nothing. He simply disappeared. The initial panic among friends quickly escalated into a broader search. Columbus police were called, and a missing person investigation began almost immediately. Officers scoured the bar, interviewed staff and patrons, checked nearby streets, alleys, and clubs. Canvasses were conducted, fingerprints examined, and surveillance footage combed over frame by frame. Every lead went cold. Not a single trace of Brian was found, as if the earth itself had swallowed him. As the hours turned into days, the mystery deepened. Friends and family described him as careful, conscientious, and responsible, someone unlikely to vanish voluntarily or get caught up in trouble without contacting anyone. Medical school colleagues insisted he was focused, driven, and grounded. None could imagine a reason for him to disappear voluntarily. The investigation turned to more extraordinary possibilities. Could someone have abducted him? If so, there were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses to unusual behavior. Could he have staged his own disappearance? But his life had everything going for it: a loving family, a promising career, a circle of friends. Nothing in his background suggested a desire to vanish completely. And yet, despite exhaustive searches, police were left with only a void. The bar itself became a point of intense scrutiny. Security footage was replayed endlessly by authorities and private investigators, each frame dissected for clues. Some claimed to see subtle movements near the exits, shadows that might have been Brian's, but nothing could be confirmed. Others speculated that the cameras themselves had missed something: a blind spot, a hidden alcove, a mechanical failure. But the building had been thoroughly examined. The conclusion was the same: Brian Shaffer entered the bar, and no one saw him leave. Over the years, theories emerged online, some plausible, some fantastical. Some suggested foul play. Perhaps someone lured him away or attacked him when no one was looking. Others imagined more bizarre possibilities, from secret passages and hidden tunnels to the idea that he had stumbled into some improbable accident, lost and alone. But no physical evidence ever surfaced to support any theory. His disappearance remained airtight, a perfect mystery in its elusiveness. The human element, however, was impossible to ignore. Friends and family were devastated. Parents described the months after his disappearance as agonizing, filled with a torturous mix of hope and despair. Every unclaimed wallet, every unidentified body, every distant tip of a sighting sparked momentary hope, only to collapse into renewed grief. Investigators pursued hundreds of leads, yet the trail was cold. Even today, Brian's disappearance stands as one of the most confounding cases in modern history. Psychologists who have studied cases like Brian's point out the unsettling nature of vanishings that occur in crowded public spaces. A young, healthy adult disappearing without trace challenges our understanding of reality. It forces us to question what is possible, what is predictable, and what remains unknowable. The very ordinariness of the bar, the casual social atmosphere, juxtaposed with his sudden, unexplained disappearance, creates a tension that captivates and terrifies. The bar itself continued to operate, the crowd moving in and out, oblivious to the layers of mystery embedded in its walls. Patrons came and went, unaware that on a Friday night, a young man had simply ceased to exist in a space surrounded by dozens of witnesses and cameras. The thought that one could vanish so completely, with no explanation, no trace, left people unsettled. It was a reminder of the fragility of life and the thin veneer of normality that separates our daily routines from chaos. Online communities have kept the case alive, sharing theories, speculating endlessly, and replaying the security footage in search of the smallest anomaly. Some suggest that hidden tunnels or construction areas might explain his disappearance. Others speculate more sinister possibilities: an unknown assailant, a calculated abduction. But the truth, like Brian himself, remains absent. Despite the passage of time, the mystery continues to grip the imagination. Families of missing persons often speak of the strange duality between hope and despair. In Brian's case, that duality is amplified. Every investigation fails to provide answers, and every attempt to reconstruct the events inside the bar leads only to more questions. The story of Brian Shaffer is a chilling reminder that even in a crowded public space, a person can disappear completely. It challenges notions of safety, visibility, and the limits of surveillance. Even modern technology, cameras, security systems, witness accounts cannot always guarantee that we can track, locate, or understand what has occurred. And perhaps that is the most unsettling part. The disappearance defies explanation not because it is impossible, but because it exposes the fragility of human perception. For those who study cases like this, every detail matters. The way Brian moved through the bar, the interactions he had with staff and patrons, the precise timestamps on the footage, all become crucial elements in a puzzle that has no solved edges. And yet, the more we scrutinize, the less certain we become. Each theory brings its own set of contradictions, and no amount of evidence has ever filled the void left by his absence. It is impossible not to feel a sense of unease. Imagining yourself in his place. Walking into a crowded bar, blending with the crowd, surrounded by people and yet isolated in a way that allows one to simply vanish without notice, it is a fear that resonates deeply. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, the familiar becomes frightening, and the mundane setting of a social outing transforms into a haunting enigma. Even today, investigators, true crime enthusiasts, and everyday citizens return to the footage repeatedly, looking for clues, patterns, or evidence of something overlooked. Each viewing reinforces the same terrifying conclusion: A young man walked into a public space and no one saw him leave. That absence is complete, total, and unsolvable. The story of Brian Shaffer invites us to ponder our assumptions about safety, visibility, and the predictability of human behavior. It reminds us that even in a crowded world, it is possible to vanish without trace, leaving behind only uncertainty, grief, and a haunting question: what happened to him? And so, the mystery endures. Security cameras, witness statements, exhaustive searches, all have failed to produce answers. Brian Shaffer's disappearance remains a chilling case study in the limits of human observation, the fragility of life, and the enduring power of a truly unsolved mystery. If you've been captivated by this story, make sure you subscribe to follow more chilling, unsolved disappearances. Comment below with your theory. What do you think happened to Brian? Was it foul play, an accident, or something even stranger? Each new episode explores the unexplained, and your insight could be part of the ongoing conversation. The bar still stands, the music still plays, and life continues as usual for the thousands of patrons who walk its floors every week. But the ghost of Brian Shaffer lingers in memory, in footage, in speculation, and in the chilling realization that, sometimes, people can vanish without explanation, leaving only questions that endure.